okay, well, here's AI, and what the hell do I do with it, right? How does that help my business? Or, for example, if you're a car dealership and you start a chatbot for your customers, like we were
selling cars for $1.
This is a legally binding contract.
Welcome to the Cables to Clouds podcast. Cloud adoption is on the rise, and many network infrastructure professionals are being asked to adopt a hybrid approach. As individuals who have already started this journey, we would like to empower those professionals with the tools and the knowledge to bridge the gap.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Cables to Clouds Fortnightly News. I'll be your host this week, Tim, and with me, of course, as always, are my co-hosts Alex Perkins and Chris Miles. All right, let's jump right into it. We got lots of stories to cover. Alex, I think you're going to kick us off, right?
Yep, got a real interesting one. HashiCorp is suing OpenTofu. For those of you that don't know, HashiCorp is the company that makes Terraform. OpenTofu, when HashiCorp changed their licensing, I think this was back in December of last year, to a business. I forget exactly what it's called. It's like some kind of business license where basically you can't just use their product, their core product to, spin out like your own business. This angered a lot of people, and a bunch of companies kind of got together and made this fork of their code that they called OpenTofu. The issue, though, is HashiCorp is alleging that a feature that came after this license was changed. I think it's the recover block or remove block.
Yeah, I think so.
It got added after OpenTofu did their fork. And then now it's magically found its way into the OpenTofu code. I've talked to a couple people about this, offline. It sounds like, I'm not a lawyer, obviously, so I don't know how you prove something like this. But it's not an exact copy and paste. And I don't know how similar it has to be for them to actually get in trouble for this. But at the same time, on OpenTofu's side, it's like, well, of course they're going to add functionality that people are going to want that Terraform is still adding to their product. So I'm sure this has just started, but I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of back and forth on this. I haven't seen really any responses. I think OpenTofu just said that they were looking into it and that they were sure that they didn't pull code directly from them. But in the article, there's also a screenshot that it says basically that it came from HashiCorp's code, which, does not look good for OpenTofu, basically. You guys got anything to add on this one?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what precedents get set from this, because there's a lot, especially with, Git publishing and stuff. Like, there should be a good record of this. And I'm curious to see what amount of that is, if this actually goes to some kind of court date or something and doesn't get settled. I expect it gets settled, but if it doesn't, I would love to see the case law that comes out of using Git history as like evidence or something like that.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with you, Tim. I'm eager to see how this sets the scene for potential future impacts of things like this, like Git forks and things like that. One other thing I'm curious to see how it plays out is I don't know if we actually covered this last time we did a news episode, but HashiCorp has also announced that they're looking for a potential buyer. I wonder how this impacts that, good or bad. And I wonder if this is just like the first dagger they can kind of stick in OpenTofu to hopefully kill it at the root before it gets to be too much of a problem for them. But I don't know. I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah. All good points. So definitely, if we get any more news, right, this will obviously be covered in future news episodes. So definitely tune in and keep listening.
Yeah, we got to follow this one because there's so much precedent that's going to be set from this based on how this whole thing plays out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because the open source stuff is just a lot of stuff going on right now like this. So All right. Next up, we got an article from the Register talking about Huawei's. The title is Huawei's Cloud Unit is its current growth vehicle. We were talking about this beforehand. I didn't even know Huawei had a cloud. Which is crazy because if you read the article, they have almost as big of a footprint as AWS does, which is nuts. Like they have about a tenth of the revenue coming in from their cloud business. But man, like I just, for me, not even knowing that they existed, they have a giant footprint. I was very surprised by that.
Yeah, I feel like an imposter. Like, what the hell am I doing in cloud, man? Like, how did I not know that Huawei not only has a cloud, but that cloud footprint rivals AWS, and that there's, they're citing hundreds of countries and regions and companies that are using this thing.
Yeah, and I mean, and just to add to that, so I just pulled it up. AWS has 33 regions. Huawei Cloud has 30. That's just nuts. They have AWS has 105 AZs. Huawei has 84. AWS is in 245 countries and territories. Huawei is in 170. So this is not a small footprint. Like this, they're very far along. So. Yeah,
but the important question is, how many service offerings does Huawei have that have the very different names
That's
across their entire landscape? That's the true tale.
How many AI tools do they have? Is the real question. Yeah.
I'm actually very curious to see what the slate of services that Huawei's cloud provides. Do they have?
Yeah, same.
I mean, there's got to be some table stakes stuff, right? They'll have IAM of some kind of identity access management. They'll have some kind of storage offering, right? They've got to, there's just like some table stakes stuff that they have to have. But you kind of wonder, like, I kind of want to go look at their service catalog now.
Do they call it VPC, or is it another new?
What do they call it
exactly?
That's nuts, man. I got some research to do.
All right. Well, speaking of AWS, Tim, you want to take us away with the next one?
Yeah. I feel like every news episode we have to cover this, and it's always different, right? It's not the same shit. It's always a different one. So AWS just performed another layoff. This time they targeted their training and certifications. They targeted other parts of the organization. But yeah, training and certifications was the biggest hit. And my LinkedIn just absolutely lit up that morning with
I was seeing people. It everywhere. Yep.
Yeah, like and everybody's title was like certification program manager or certified trainer, names that I knew actually had seen training from. AWS is really digging in. Like, and I've been looking into this broadly because this keeps happening, not just from AWS but across the industry. And without getting too far into it, I think what we're seeing is a big wage reset, which is during COVID, a lot of people did better. Tech grew really big. I mean, you remember the salaries were huge, the jobs were huge, and I think this is companies attempting to reset the wages for positions. Right? They'll lay people off at high pay. And now that the market is flooding, they'll rehire people at a lower wage rate, and they'll have to accept it.
And resetting to pay all the new AI talent that they're hiring.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
There's a new floor.
Real quick on this one, what I was thought was very interesting is in the article they kind of mentioned that AWS put out a statement, something along the lines of they want to focus on their external training providers, and I just thought that was a bit ironic because we just did an episode. We just did an episode with Andrew Brown. And the whole thing was about how they don't reach out to these external training providers. And
how they were pulling it all internally, right? And not answering questions for external people. So, I mean, the timing, of course, is completely not related, right? It's not like nobody watched our episode and decided they were going to, this was going to happen.
Right,
but I mean, it's nuts, right?
We might have been the straw that broke the camel's back, dude. Don't cut us short.
The last dagger.
Those cables, the clouds guys, they were talking about.
I hope not, because man, that would be that'd be something terrible thrown at our feet.
That's true. Never mind. It wasn't us. It absolutely was not us.
No, you're right. The timing, though, right? Because we had just talked to Andrew about this, about how AWS was pushing its own training programs and cutting off external trainers. So
yeah, I'll link a card too to Andrew's episode.
Yeah. So yeah, the right and left hands clearly did not know what the other was doing or something. The messaging is messed up.
And that's the thing. I guess if they do start going down this track of reaching out to external training providers, I guess they went ahead and did the burn back now before people saw the writing on the wall about it potentially happening later on. I don't know. There's not a beautiful way to do layoffs ever, right? It's all no. People are always going to get affected, and there's malice at times. It seems like so it's hard to read this one necessarily in that capacity, but hopefully they do start reaching out to third parties, because then I think those potentially those people that were in the training BU at AWS potentially have bigger opportunities
somewhere to go.
Some of those places, right? Yeah.
Totally. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next story. This one was a kind of a breath of fresh air, actually. We've covered Nile before, Nile being the network as a service company on the news episode. We've also covered, I've been quite vocal in my furious anger at press releases coming out, especially ones that involve AI that completely lack any information whatsoever about how AI will be used inside the product. Trust AI. Sorry, I had something in my throat there. But this was really good to read, actually. So Nile just put out a press release talking about how they're going to be building AI into the product, and they actually gave a lot of really cool examples about like the day zero. They call it day -1, day zero operations, about some of the planning stuff that the AI is going to be leveraged to help. Also, of course, the AI ops stuff, which of course makes perfect sense for a product like this, right? AI ops, that one, easy. But yeah, so take a look at the press release. It's in the notes. But they go down, link, item by item, and say like, here's the new feature, here's what it's called, and here's where AI is going to figure into it. And that's amazing these days, especially.
Yeah, agreed for sure. I mean, it is just really cool to see they make a claim and then they actually say exactly what they're going to do with it. Like they say it's built from the ground up to use AI, and then they actually say this is how it's built from the ground up, and
right.
what it'll actually be doing, and in exact reference to the product, not like, oh, well, you have the potential as a customer to use our stuff for whatever you imagine. It's like, no, it's built into the Nile product, and here's how. So I agree. I like it a lot that they did this.
Yeah, I'm not like, obviously Nile, I would say, is not necessarily cloud networking in that capacity, but it's definitely adjacent to what we try to talk about on this podcast. And I'm not a user of their services, but I will say a lot of what they're putting out there into the public space is very appealing. I really do like what they're doing. They're hitting, they're at least hitting the marketing points, right? That's something to be accounted for. But if I'm curious, if you're a Nile user at your company, let us know. We're eager to hear about it. I want to know how it's going for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think Chris, you got the next story that we're going to cover, right?
Yes, I do. So I have a couple articles here. These are just things that have come out in the past couple of weeks. I will say that's not necessarily news. More kind of opinion pieces or things like that. This one is kind of is very topical, so we'll throw it in the news category. But we have an article here from InfoWorld that is talking about how AI advancements are fueling cloud infrastructure spending. So obviously there's been a growth in infrastructure spending on the cloud side. I think the IDC Worldwide Quarterly Enterprise Infrastructure Tracker report, that was a mouthful, saw a year-over-year increase of about 18.5% on storage and compute for cloud deployments. And now since this AI has kind of come in as a central driver for cloud spending, that's obviously increased as well, right? But the hard focus on AI and GPUs and things like that. And this article does a good job at talking about how that's actually affecting cloud infrastructure spending. And, like traditional cloud projects are probably taking a back seat, and there's probably a lot of infrastructure teams out there that are struggling to keep up because they're having to put budget into these AI spending projects. And it doesn't exactly say how that's taking a toll, but it potentially could. Also a potential opportunity for other things that are not GPU AI related to fall in price. So there could be some overall benefit, but as we've talked about on this podcast, we're waiting to see the economies of scale take effect, right? So I don't know if that's wishful thinking, but I thought this was a really good article. So I'm curious to hear how you guys feel about it.
I agree with you, Chris. I really like about, what is this about? It's a little more, it's probably like 3/4 of the way down the page. There's, it doesn't say who it's from, but it looks like this is a quote kind of from people that they've talked to in enterprise IT. And it's basically like they're saying AI is on their radar screen, but they don't have the budgets to fund it. And how this basically is going to negatively impact them. Well, and it's how it's going to negatively impact them, because these like execs, like CIOs, CTOs that are still trying to keep the regular systems going and maybe even still doing migrations to the cloud, right? Like we know not everybody's even fully migrated. How does this impact, like if everything goes up in price and they're still even trying to get into the cloud in the first place, the budget's not there, right? Like there's so many, like Chris said, this is just an awesome article that kind of goes into the nuances of every different angle and just gives you insight of, you can kind of draw your own conclusions for some of these, but.
Yeah, the good point. If you're anyone that's out there in enterprise IT that is migrating to the cloud, you probably know your migration strategy, your upcoming cloud projects are probably spaced out over the next 2 to 3 years. Probably you probably have an end goal that's still that far away, and then AI came along, which is like, hey, you got to change everything you're doing because we can't miss this. That's the kind of the mentality that a lot of these companies have, right? It's either like get on the boat or you're going to miss it type thing. So, the
biggest thing is enterprises, and not every enterprise, right, is ready, willing, able, has a use case necessarily for AI. Like, I'm sure lots of people out there are still trying to figure out, okay, well, here's AI. What the hell do I do with it, right? How does that help my business? Or, for example, if you're a car dealership and you start a chatbot for your customers, selling
cars for $1.
This is a legally binding contract. Oh my God. Yeah. So, case in point though, right? Like putting that out there, that's actually a very good point. Here is a company that clearly wanted to leverage AI to, help it, and, stubbed its toe pretty badly, I would say. Right. And there are a lot of customers doing that right now, or not customers, enterprises doing that right now. And so, everything you guys said is right. The budgets are usually done in 6 months to a year cycles, and so that money's allocated. That money, it could have been already spent when this started taking off. Right. And, were capital funds released for this? Who knows? So, this is really messing people's day up. So it's really cool to see this article kind of lean into that and talk about that.
Absolutely. Next one is another kind of just kind of an opinion piece or a reflection piece, I'll say, from, I believe it is, who's this from? SC Magazine, about the effects of cloud migration on modern network security. So I think this one kind of just does a really good job at analyzing, migration to cloud and what that means as far as network security and how it's made it more difficult, how things are slower to adapt, right? Because once you move into a hybrid cloud environment, it kind of talks about the complex security challenges due to the, kind of distributed assets that you have across the board right there, expanding your security perimeter, things like that. And then also talks about the slow adoption of these kind of cloud native security tools, things like zero trust network access and cloud native application protection platforms, or CNAP. So these things exist in the world today, but they are relatively have a low adoption rate as of right now. So the CRA did a report from April 2024 that indicates that even less than half of the surveyed organizations are using those cloud native monitoring tools. So that's obviously a significant gap there, right? I think this kind of breaks it down in a pretty good way. I feel like we on this podcast we probably do kind of speak. Tim, Alex, and I are people that have been in the industry for quite a while now, and we probably do talk from our points of experience because we've been in it for so long. But I think this is a good kind of reset, kind of just talk about the basic components of it from a network security piece.
I appreciate that this article explained the problem statement. It didn't go into it's not a vendor article, right? So it's not saying, here's the problem statement and here's how we solve it. But it does very well lay out like point by point, this is the problem statement of doing cloud hybrid specifically network security. And it really just kind of bullet points the whole thing in a way that makes it easy to digest. So definitely give it a read. Even for practitioners that, think they already know it, this was a really good read.
Yeah. And also, it kind of goes to show, we talk about this every now and then. We should probably focus on it a little more, but really the integration of like networking and security, the cloud has done a lot of things. And one of those things that I think is not noticed much is how much networking and security kind of came together as people kind of shifted to the cloud. So from that angle too, if you read this article, thinking about it from that angle, I think you'll get a lot out of it for sure.
Agreed. All right. And last article that we'll throw in today. This one is groundbreaking news. I will say it's funny because I just kind of did when we do the show, I prep and usually do a Google News search for cloud networking just to see what pops up, see if there's anything that we may have missed. And I saw this article on the importance of harnessing multi-cloud networking. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Let's open that one up. And I was like trying to determine exactly what it was posted via a vendor. And I was trying to determine exactly what this vendor does. And they do cloud printing services. So it's all based on, managing print queues and print services and things like that. And they're putting out articles on the importance of MCN. So, I thought that was just funny. We had to cover it here. My take is, if anything, that validates the MCN market right there. If a cloud printing company is talking about it, hey, we're here to stay, baby. We're not going nowhere. Tim's flabbergasted.
I know, it's speechless. I love it, man. Like you said, Chris. If a cloud printing company is talking about multi-cloud networking, We've made it. We're on the right track. Everyone will come along and understand what we're talking about at some point. It's awesome.
I'm not so much flabbergasted. Okay, I'm slightly flabbergasted about the idea that a cloud printing company has an article about multi-cloud networking. Like you said, I guess we've made it if cloud printing is now talking about multi-cloud. I'm actually, what surprises me the most about this article is that it's actually pretty well written. Like, the people that wrote it actually know what the hell they're talking about. And you're just like, that's the part that screws with my head the most.
Yeah, I guess I should have noticed or paid note to that the company that posted this is called Papercut. So we want to give them their their creds. They posted this article. It's pretty well written. We don't know exactly what motivated them to post a blog about multi-cloud networking, but hey, it's we're here for it, baby. It's all good.
I want to talk to this guy because it says his name's Alistair, and it says Alistair didn't choose the print management life. The print management life chose him. That's like his bio, his author bio, and it's just
as host of a niche podcast. That's a niche calling to have in your life. I'll tell you that.
It gives me that vibe of like the CPA that listens to gangster rap or something, or something like that. But yeah, no, it was great article. Great article.
All right. With that, I guess we will wrap up. I'll tell you for those that want more news, there were actually quite a few articles that we had today that we chose not to cover on the podcast. So if you want to read all these articles we talked about today and even more, check the show notes. We do have a Fortnightly news cloud document that we post. It's just a Google Doc out there with all the links that we talk about, plus all the ones that we don't talk about. So there's good stuff in there about Google apparently acquiring HubSpot, a lot of AI stuff. That's always sprinkled in there. But yeah, there's definitely good more stuff to read in there. So have a look at it. And Alex,
you said Fortnite, right? You did say Fortnite.
I didn't say it. Yeah, you said it. It's always got to be. We have one guy on Twitter that's always reaching out to us like, "Hey, I've missed the Fortnite note," and we don't worry, man, we got you this time. It's on.
One of these days, we're going to just troll everybody, and we're going to do 25 to 30 minutes of Fortnite, like on the news episode. Okay, well, there we go. That's it for the week. If you liked what you heard, please listen to us on your favorite podcatcher. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Join our Fortnite Discord, and buy our skins. And yeah, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Hi, everyone. It's Tim, and this has been the Cables to Clouds podcast. Thanks for tuning in today. If you enjoyed our show, please subscribe to us in your favorite podcast catcher, as well as subscribe and turn on notifications for our YouTube channel to be notified of all our new episodes. Follow us on socials at Cables2Clouds. You can also visit our website for all the show notes at cables2clouds.com. Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.